What is up guys, Deadset here. This video will be dedicated to a metagame talk, namely the exodus from campaign mode into adventure mode for the entirety of Reaper of Souls, and how can the story mode be reintroduced as an activity that is actually worth doing. In its current state, there is little incentive to do campaign mode for any reason besides experiencing the storyline for the first time. We could say this is not an issue. After all, Diablo is a game that focuses on fun and efficient execution of repetitive tasks, and downtime forced by dialogue, cutscenes, and forced standstills can detract from that. But I would argue that Diablo is always striving to enlarge its circle of activities within the present system, and more importantly, keep them all relevant. Case in point, the recent reworks to bounties and crafting. Right now, if you don't care about achievement points, literally the only reason to return to an entire game mode with lush production values, cinematics, and voiceovers is the guaranteed drop of Leoric's crown for characters between level 20 and 60. Interestingly, as minimal of an incentive that is, it still manages to pull a decent number of people for a brief detour at the start of every season. If expanded upon, could that simple addition be the answer to the problem at hand? I believe so. At its core, Diablo will always remain random when it comes to item perfection. The focus remains on repeated runs, gambling, and reforging, the weighted RNG inching you ever forward to gear completion. Still, targeted runs have their place, and we've seen little complaints about the implementation of cash legendaries. Their principle, that is, not their drop rates. Targeted runs also carry a nice throwback vibe to the older games, even if they clash with the general philosophy of Diablo 3. My suggestion would be to turn the campaign into a minor source of targeted farming, dipping from the general item pool to bring out several staple items as guarantees in the story mode. The restrictions that apply to the current Leoric's Crown implementation, only on the first skill of the boss for the character, also the level limitations, will remain intact. The general goal is to provide valuable legendary items that can serve as cube fuel or follower gear if outleveled. All of this without reaching into class-specific drops and set items, and without taking away the excitement from most game changers. There will be 17 targetable items for each of the 17 bosses in the game, each tied, at least loosely, to the theme of the particular boss. My proposals are as follows. Queen Arenae is the first boss after Leoric, a multi-staged fight where the enemy flees and reappears at high speed. In my book, this makes her a likely candidate for Hexing Pants of Mr. Yan as the guaranteed item, especially considering the flavor text citing Westmarch as the adventuring spot of choice for their creator, Mr. Yan. It would make sense that this foolhardy career might have ended in the caverns near Tristram. The Butcher is the final boss of Act 1, and while he does have a personalized legendary in the form of Butcher's Carver, I would be hard-pressed to call it useful. All is not lost, however, as his knockback attack points us in the direction of Strongarm Bracers, an item he might have poached from an unlucky Amazon of Skartara. Magda is a hard fit with her arcane theme, as most arcane-based items would be too wizard-specific to be used by the other classes. We could look elsewhere for flavor match, however. Her long-standing rivalry with Adria as leaders of the Coven, or even the sworn vengeance by the Nephilim upon the death of Deckard Cain. Both make me think of Nemesis Bracers as a good option. Zoltan Cool is many things. A founding member of the Haradrim, a renegade, a talented mage, but most of all he's dead and buried deep. One of the items to make a general statement about plumbing ancient tombs and conveniently unattached to anything or anyone in the lore are the Depth Diggers. The fight with Belial has several themes going for it: summoning, illusions, and poison. Unfortunately, legendary items related to those themes are either scarce or underpowered or both. A loosely associated suggestion I can give is the Fulminator Sword, whose flavor hints at its rarity, maybe even potential collector's value. Emperors are figures of power, for whom it would make sense to keep a prized collection, and any of the surviving Queen Blades is a worthy weapon for the Chaldean court. For gum, I would base my pick around the flavor of the environment rather than the fight itself. The keep depths levels are packed with fallen lunatics, and as it happens, there is an item that summons that very monster, the Nagel Ring. While it certainly isn't an endgame item, the burst is very noticeable during leveling and in the lower difficulties, considering well-rolled staples, like Focus and Restraint, do take time to acquire. Another location-based drop that I would assign would be for the Siegebreaker. With a lore snippet directly referencing Rakis, it is only natural that we find the S of Johann at the edge of the abyss, the very end of Rakis Crossing. Even if you quickly outlevel its stats, this high utility proc is a mainstay follower amulet that can serve you a long time. As I mentioned before, poison bosses are a hard fit due to the specificity of the element and the scarcity of well-regarded items in the category. Thus I had to get creative with Sidea, and thought Ingam would be a good fit. As the fight progresses, Sidea's cooldowns get shorter, somewhat analogous to the sword's powers. The next boss you face is one of my favorites when it comes to variety. Azmodan is a demon of many talents, summoning lasers, fireballs, pools of destruction, you name it. With his vast array of elemental attacks, one could assume he's making use of convention of the elements, and nebbing that power off of him can boost you with spikes of elemental damage when proper elemental gear is still lacking. Act 4 begins with Scotto, a boss encounter most of us barely remember, as he doesn't reappear in adventure mode and his rifting analog doesn't share his mechanics anymore. To make facing Scotto a little more memorable and a thing you actually look forward to, I would tie that summoning heavy fight to the signature pet item Tasker and Theo. Rakanoth does not make it easy for me, as his fight is physical melee and teleportation heavy, neither of which have a great universal item tied to it. Instead of focusing on his tricks, I looked at his overall fighting style. Given the choice, Rakanoth prefers to stand in place and slice you to bits. This somewhat matches the Oculus Ring mechanics, trying to fight within the confines of the ring proc. Like the S of Johann, this follower favorite can last you quite a while. With a rare cold theme, Iswol is a solitary candidate for several viable choices. I had to pick between Reinhardt, Yungjang Do, and Freeze of Deflection. Ultimately, I settled on the shield as the best balance between long-term usefulness and preserving the excitement from actual game changers for random drops. Freeze of Deflection completes the triad of follower staples, along with the S of Johann and Oculus Ring, outfitting a powerful companion at your side. While it was a Season 3 exclusive item, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac would be a great fit for a drop from the Prime Evil itself. A ring referencing valuable item affixes from Diablo 1, lootable from the signature antagonist of the trilogy. Seems like a perfect throwback to me. It certainly doesn't hurt that the ring is well designed, interesting to play with, and universally useful at the endgame. A fiery boss through and through, Urziel seems to be a natural fit for items that crackle and burn. Exciting and powerful to obtain, and yet universal enough not to cross into game changer territory, the Cinder coat would be my pick for a guaranteed drop. Once outleveled, its resource cost reduction will fit right into the cube and benefit you all the way into the endgame. More of a thematic fit than anything else, but you must agree it's quite the match. I would make Broken Promises the fixed item for Adria. Betrayal and backstabbing are the name of the game for this witch, and once you repay her in kind, this exotic and potent ring would be a just reward. Finally, I find the soul-stealing Malthael the most likely candidate to drop an item that binds two souls together, the Unity Ring. With a unique property that will long outlast its stats, either by storing it in the cube or granting it to a follower, Unity is a worthy reward to a long and tumultuous journey. So, Does the allure of guaranteed drops alleviate the inconvenience of scripted events and cutscenes for the true power gamers out there? Possibly not, which is why I would probably throw a Rift-like bonus to Magic Find on top of the first clear of the campaign, just further smoothing out differences. In the end, I would like to reiterate that my goal is not to shift the focus from one activity to the other, or to enforce the campaign for maximum efficiency. The aim of the proposed change is to take something that's already in effect several steps further and make it an attractive way for people to acquaint themselves with the world of Sanctuary. After all, remembering who you're swinging your stat sticks against might make you swing that much harder. Thank you for watching.